going to give you guys a little intro to this book before you start it as a club. So you guys are reading I Survived Hurricane Katrina. 2005, yep. So one of the things I always do before I start a book is I read the back of the book. Yep. Kind of like helps my brain get ready for what I'm going to read.
Every time I read a book, I always look at the back first.
Yeah, me too. So I'm going to read the back out loud, and then I'm going to ask you to like talk and think about some things. It says, his whole world is underwater. Barry's family tries to evacuate before Hurricane Katrina hits their home in the lower 9th Ward of New Orleans. But when Barry's little sister gets terribly sick, they're forced to stay home and wait out the storm. At first, Katrina doesn't seem to be as severe a storm as forecasters predicted, but overnight the levees break and Barry's world is literally torn apart. He's swept away by the floodwaters, away from his family. Can he survive the storm of the century alone?
Wait, you gotta look at the family?
So a lot of times in historical fiction in particular, there's like events that really affect the characters or the people, right? And they talk about those. And so can you guys just like talk a little bit and think about how would the like Hurricane Katrina, how might that affect the people in this book?
Affect them a lot?
I think it's gonna affect them a lot because how it said on the back, you might get separate from your family that you have. And sometimes you have little kids, like I have twin brothers, and there was like one, and you might lose the babies, especially if they're really little, like 8 months old or something.
And if it's like your first, like if you've never seen a hurricane before, but it's like really scary if you've never, I guess, been in one. So it's probably really scary to be in one. And I would be very scared if I was in a hurricane.
Yeah, I've never been in
a
one.
hurricane.
I've never been in one.
What do you guys think? Nemi?
Oh yeah, and they should also get prepared for it because if you don't know, you could actually get really separated, and you don't know, and you might be in the middle of nowhere.
So we're worried about like how we might be scared, how families might be separated if they're not prepared. What do you guys think about how this might affect the characters, how this hurricane?
Might get rid of all their stuff. Their houses?
Yeah, so it might affect like where they live. We have to think about all of those things as we read. Okay. Sometimes we can't wait to read. Okay, so I want to point out some things about how this book works. So if you guys open to chapter 1, you're going to notice that in the very beginning it actually gives us a date and a time and a place.
Oh yeah, and here it says like who's it for.
Oh, in the very beginning, yeah. Sometimes they do a dedication page, you're right. So sometimes authors do this when they really want us to know when this part of the book is happening. So this first part happens on Monday, August 29th at 7 a.m. in the lower 9th Ward. And then if you look on chapter 2, there's also this little preview part before it gets in, and it says 21 hours earlier.
Oh my god.
Right?
The chapters are so little.
So the rest of this part is actually like a flashback. It's telling us before.
Yeah, I have
What
a
happened?
survived book at home, and it's where the Twin Towers like broke down. It started on that day, and then it went how it all began.
So kind of the same pattern.
Yeah.
That's a great thing to notice, right? Sometimes books have the same pattern.
Like in movies.
It's like chapter
Yes.
1 is like explaining what's gonna happen on that day.
So chapter 1 kind of talks about that day, and then before
And
it
then
talks
it-
about earlier,
And
right?
then it
Exactly.
talks, about how it all started.
Yep. And then if you like skip ahead all the way to chapter 16 to the very end.
I can't find it.
It's okay if you can't. You can look up here. It says Saturday, September 29th, 2005. So it actually skips ahead a whole month.
I found it.
And then it says New York City. So it's a different place, right? The other places were New Orleans, and then it switches places to New York City. Because the character in this book actually...
Have to move because it's like the hurricane is coming.
Exactly. So something's going to happen to him and his family, and he's going to be relocated to New York. So I want you to make sure as you're reading, you kind of pay attention to those dates and times because they're going to be
I have a
important.
book also that said I survived. The only thing I needed to finish was this book and American Revolution.
Perfect. Then you can read these and you can finish the whole series. Okay, so let me just point out a couple things. Let's talk about a couple pieces of vocabulary that might be tricky. So in the back of this book, it talks about the lower ninth word. It's actually, yeah, it's kind of a weird word, like we're not used to here, but in New Orleans, it's just a neighborhood. So it's a specific neighborhood in New Orleans. And during Katrina, actually what happened was that that particular neighborhood got flooded really heavily, and so a lot of people had to leave. It also talks about levees. And levees are a thing that they build. They're like walls that they build in order to keep the water out. So in places that are really close to the water, sometimes they have to build those in order that they don't get flooded.
I've seen those before.
But they're built by people. And so sometimes when we build things, they break, right? And so what happened in Katrina is that the levees broke because there was so much water. And then that's part of the reason why that neighborhood, the lower ninth ward, flooded.
That almost happened to my grandparents.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like they got flooded too?
Yeah, they live in Florida, so they made a wall. They told me they made a wall against the beach, and it almost like broke down. So they told us that, but we were very happy that it didn't affect them.
Perfect
And it also
connection,
shows
right?
that I think he didn't go on by himself. I think he found like a dog at some point.
Yeah, we'll
So
have
it's
to
like,
find out.
Like the cover always like gives you some information, especially when it has like a picture.
It's true, it kind of gives you a little preview of what's going to happen, right? Okay, so we're going to start reading, but before we start, I want you guys to really think while you're reading this book that like events really affect people, right? Natural disasters really have a great effect on the people that live through them. And in this book, it's talking about a hurricane that had like a lot of problems for people. And so I want you to think about just like how do these natural disasters that have happened in history, how do they affect people? How do they affect the world? And then like, what do you think we should be doing about it? Like, is there more that we can be doing? Okay, so just while we read the book, or while you will read the book, I just want you kind of to keep that in your mind.